I was supposed to be getting married in 8 weeks. The venue was booked. The catering deposit was paid. The honeymoon to Greece had been planned down to the ferry schedules and hotel balconies. My dress was hanging in the spare room, still wrapped in plastic, like a promise no one had officially broken yet, but one that had already started to rot. That morning started like any other. Quiet. Toast cooling on the plate. Coffee steaming between my hands. My fiancé sat across from me at the kitchen table, not touching his food, eyes fixed somewhere past my shoulder. I remember noticing how still he was. Too still, like someone bracing for impact. "I need to tell you something," he said. My stomach tightened before my mind could catch up. I smiled anyway. Reflex, muscle memory from loving someone for 3 years. "I need to find myself before the wedding," he continued. "I'm moving back with my ex-girlfriend's family for a few weeks, just to clear my head." The mug stopped halfway to my mouth. I didn't spill the coffee. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just froze. Every sound in the room sharpened. The hum of the fridge, the clock ticking, my own breath coming out too slow. "You're moving in with your ex's family," I said carefully, like repeating it might suddenly make it logical. He nodded, already defensive, already somewhere else. I could have begged. I could have argued. I could have reminded him of the guest list his mother had bullied me into expanding, the deposits, the invitations already sent. I could have told him how humiliating this sounded, how wrong it felt in my bones. Instead, I looked at him, really looked at him, and said, "Take all the time you need." The relief on his face landed like an insult. He hugged me. Happy tears. Promises. 2 or 3 weeks. The wedding still on. He packed 2 suitcases and left that Wednesday, posting a smiling selfie on the road about soul searching. I waited exactly 1 hour after the door closed. Then I got to work. Because if he needed to find himself with his ex's family, I was about to find myself too, just not where he expected, and definitely not waiting for him to come back. We met 3 years earlier, in a way that felt ordinary at the time, and monumental only in hindsight. A mutual friend's engagement party. Loud music, cheap wine, people pretending they weren't already thinking about marriage and mortgages. He stood out not because he was the loudest or the most charming, but because he listened. When I spoke, he didn't scan the room. He stayed. His attention felt steady, grounded, safe. At least that's what I thought back then. Our relationship moved in a straight line. Dates became routines. Routines became habits. Habits became a life that looked solid from the outside. We didn't fight much. We talked things through, or rather, I talked. He agreed. I mistook his calm compliance for emotional maturity. When he proposed, it was quiet. No crowd, no flash. Just a ring slid across a restaurant table and a question that felt inevitable by then. I said yes because nothing felt wrong. That should have been the warning. Planning the wedding revealed things I'd ignored. His mother took over with surgical precision. Guest lists, colors, seating charts. I absorbed the pressure because that's what women are taught to do. Smooth, adapt, carry. He told me I was so good at handling things. I didn't notice that meant he was stepping back. Whenever stress came up, he withdrew, not dramatically, just absent. Long silences, vague reassurances. "It'll work out. You're overthinking." I learned to stop pushing, learned to carry the emotional weight myself. Then there was the ex. He mentioned her casually, the way people mention a chapter they insist is closed. College girlfriend. 3 years together. Her family had been like his own. They had a cottage upstate where he used to escape during stressful times. I didn't love how often she came up, but I trusted him. Trust felt like the adult thing to do. Confident women don't get threatened by the past, right? When wedding stress peaked, I suggested couples counseling. He laughed softly, not cruelly, almost kindly, and said he just needed space. I assumed that meant long walks, quiet nights, maybe a weekend alone. Not moving in with his ex's family. Looking back, the pattern is obvious. Whenever life demanded commitment, he looked for familiarity instead. Something safe, something already tested, something that didn't require him to choose me fully. I didn't see it because I was busy being steady, being supportive, being the woman who made everything easier. The truth is, I loved him honestly. I pictured the future vividly, shared mornings, children's laughter, growing old side by side. I wasn't confused. I wasn't scared. I was ready. And that's the imbalance that mattered. By the time he told me he needed to find himself, the groundwork had already been laid. I just hadn't noticed that the foundation was cracked. When he left, I didn't collapse. I didn't curl up on the floor or call my friends sobbing. I sat very still at the kitchen table long after his car disappeared, hands folded, breathing slow. Something inside me hardened, not with anger, but with clarity. If he needed to step away from our life to decide whether he wanted it, then the decision was already made. He just didn't know it yet. He left on a Wednesday. 2 suitcases, casual clothes, the jacket I'd bought him last winter folded carefully on top, like he was planning to come back exactly the same man who walked out the door. He hugged me before he left. Not desperately, not guiltily, just enough to reassure himself that I wasn't angry, that I was still understanding. "I'll be back in 2 or 3 weeks," he said. "The wedding's still on, I promise." I nodded, calm, controlled, the kind of composure people mistake for agreement. An hour later, his car was gone from the driveway. I stood at the window longer than necessary, watching nothing, listening to my own heartbeat. Slow back into something manageable. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I didn't pace. I cleaned the kitchen, wiped down the counters, loaded the dishwasher, normal things, grounding things. Then my phone buzzed. A notification. His Instagram story. A selfie from the road, sunlight through the windshield, a soft smile. Caption. Sometimes you need to step back to move forward. Soul searching. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering, pulse ticking louder in my ears. Soul searching. At his ex-family cottage, 8 weeks before our wedding. That was the first moment and something inside me shifted, not emotionally, but strategically. I sat down with my laptop and opened a notes file. No dramatics, just facts. The ring, the honeymoon, the venue, the contracts. I didn't feel vengeful. I felt focused. The ring came first, 2.5 carats, princess cut, platinum band, $18,000. Every certificate still in the safe, still unworn, still within the return window. Thursday morning, I walked into the jewelry store alone. The manager recognized me immediately. "How's the wedding planning going?" "Change of plans," I said evenly, placing the ring on the counter. "I need to return this." His smile faded. He didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. By Friday, the money was back in my account. Next, the honeymoon. 2 weeks in Greece. Flights, hotels, tours. Almost $8,000. I spent an afternoon on the phone. Calm voice, precise language, family emergency, credits issued, partial refunds negotiated. By the end of it, more than $3,000 was recovered. The venue and catering were trickier. Both names on the contracts, both signatures required. Fine, that could wait. Saturday morning, I booked a one-way ticket to Bali. I didn't tell anyone. I used the airline credit from the canceled honeymoon, found a month-long villa rental on the beach, private, quiet, cheaper than the wedding flowers alone. My boss approved the time off without hesitation. "You were supposed to be on your honeymoon anyway." At the airport, I posted a single Instagram story. Just my boarding pass. No caption. His text came through within seconds. "Where are you going?" Me. Finding myself. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. "This isn't funny. I'm serious. You can't just leave." I smiled faintly, slipped my phone into airplane mode, and walked toward my gate. For the first time since he'd said the words, "I need space," my chest felt light. If he could leave our life to figure things out, then so could I. The difference was, I wasn't running. I was choosing. I landed in Bali nearly 20 hours later. Heat wrapped around me the moment I stepped outside the airport. Thick, damp, real. The kind of air that makes you aware of your body, your breath, your presence in the world. A driver held up a sign with my name. No confusion, no hesitation. I followed him without looking back. The villa was unreal. Private beach access, an infinity pool that blurred into the horizon, outdoor shower framed by stone and greenery, quiet, except for the ocean breathing in and out like it had been doing long before my relationship existed. I set my bags down, stood barefoot on the tile, and let the silence settle. Then I turned airplane mode off. My phone exploded. Messages stacked on top of each other so fast I couldn't read them all at once. Him, his mother, his sister, my mother. Missed calls, voicemails, texts that grew more frantic by the second. I opened his messages first. "Bali? We need to talk now. You can't just disappear. What about the wedding planning?" I didn't respond right away. I walked outside instead, dipped my feet into the pool, watched the sun melt into the ocean. Only when my breathing slowed did I type back. Same thing you're doing, finding myself. The reply came instantly. That's different. I'm working through things. You're just on vacation. I laughed once, soft, disbelieving. Vacation. He was living at his ex-girlfriend's family cottage 8 weeks before our wedding, calling it therapy. I was sitting by an ocean with a drink I didn't even like yet, and somehow I was the immature one. I posted a photo from the pool. Sunset. Location tagged. No caption. Within minutes, the calls doubled. His sister texted, "Are you seriously in Bali? He's really upset." His mother, "This is not how adults handle problems. You're being manipulative." Him, "Please answer the phone." I finally picked up when he called during dinner. "What are you doing?" he asked, voice tight. "Eating seafood," I said calmly. "You'd like this place." "That's not what I mean. Why are you in Bali?" I took a sip of water, steadying myself. "Same reason you're at your ex's cottage." "That's not the same." "How?" "I'm trying to work on myself. You're just escaping." I looked out at the dark water, lights reflecting like scattered stars. "You left our home to find yourself with your ex's family. I left our home to find myself somewhere peaceful. If that's escaping, then we're both doing it." Silence stretched between us. "We need to talk about the wedding," he said finally. "What wedding?" The line went dead quiet. "What do you mean?" "Our wedding," he said, slower now. "The one you needed space from," I replied. "That wedding." "You're being unfair." "Unfair was telling me over breakfast that you were moving in with your ex's family." "I told you Trevor wouldn't even be there." "My phone says otherwise," I said, thinking of the message his sister had sent earlier. Trevor just showed up. Surprise visit. Another pause, longer this time. "He just came to see his parents," he said quickly. I didn't know he was coming. I didn't argue. I didn't accuse. I just said, "I'm going to finish dinner." "Come home," he snapped. "Stop this." "I am home," I said evenly. "For the next month, maybe longer." He hung up on me. The next morning, I posted a photo of breakfast. Fresh fruit, coffee, the ocean stretching endlessly beyond the table. Caption: "Self-discovery tastes better with a view." By noon, the wedding vendors started calling him. By evening, he was panicking. And for the first time since this started, the imbalance between us was gone. He wanted control back. I wasn't giving it to him. By day 5 in Bali, my body had settled into the rhythm of the place before my mind fully caught up. I woke early without an alarm. The ocean was always there, steady, indifferent, honest. I started each morning with a walk along the beach, bare feet in the sand, breathing in salt and heat. Not because I was finding myself in some dramatic way, but because moving forward felt better than standing still. That's when my phone rang with a name I hadn't expected to see. "Trevor." I stared at the screen for a full 3 seconds before answering. "Yes," I said, neutral, controlled. "Hey, it's Trevor," he began, like that wasn't obvious. "This is awkward." I almost smiled. Almost. "You're living with my fiancé," I said. Awkward is an understatement. "She's really upset," he continued. "You kind of blindsided her." I leaned against the railing, watching the waves roll in and retreat. She asked for space. I gave it to her. "You know what I mean," he said. "This whole Bali thing, it feels childish." Something tightened in my chest, but my voice stayed even. "You know what's childish? Moving in with your ex's family 2 months before your wedding." She just needed to think. "And I don't?" I replied. "I'm thinking very clearly, actually." He hesitated, then said the thing that shifted everything. "You know she's been texting me for months, right?" The world didn't spin, I didn't gasp, my knees didn't buckle, I just went very still. "For months," I repeated. "Nothing serious," he rushed to add. "Just talking. She said she was confused about the wedding." "And you didn't think to tell her to talk to me," I said quietly. "Not my place," he replied. "But it was your place to let her move in," I said. Silence. I ended the call without saying goodbye and took a screenshot of the call log. Not for drama, for clarity. That afternoon, his mother commented publicly on one of my Instagram posts. "Very mature. While he's working through legitimate concerns, you're playing games. This is why he needed space from you." I read it once, then again. I replied simply, "You're right. He did need space from me. That's why I'm giving him all of it. Permanently." The comment was deleted within the hour. Too late. People had seen it. Messages from friends started coming in. Questions. Concern. Confusion. I didn't explain. I didn't defend myself. I posted another story instead. Me signing up for a cooking class. Learning to make nasi goreng. Growth mindset. He texted later that night. "Can you please stop posting stories? Everyone's asking why you're in Bali." Me. "Tell them you're finding yourself, and I am too. Just in different locations." "That's not fair." Me. "Neither was your choice." He tried calling. I declined and watched the sunset instead. I wasn't numb. I wasn't cruel. I was done reacting emotionally to decisions I hadn't made. The power shift wasn't loud. It was quiet. By day 10, the calls weren't about feelings anymore. They were about logistics. The venue wanted final headcount. The caterer needed the remaining payment. The florist was ready to lock arrangements. They couldn't reach me. New local SIM, limited email checks, so they called him. And suddenly the consequences of his space landed squarely in his lap. His messages came faster now, less emotional, more urgent. The venue keeps calling. They need confirmation. You have to answer them. I read the text slowly, then set the phone down and finished my coffee. An hour later, an email arrived. Long, carefully written, measured. He acknowledged he'd handled things badly. Said abandoning everything to go to Bali wasn't the answer. Reminded me of deposits, contracts, families who'd made plans. Then came the pivot. I've had time to think, he wrote. I realize I made a mistake. I'm ready to come home and work through this together. Trevor means nothing to me. His family just felt familiar when I was scared. Please come back so we can fix this. I read it twice. Then I replied, I'm not angry. I'm in Bali. You wanted to find yourself with your ex's family. I wanted to find myself somewhere quiet. You should have thought about the contracts before you packed your bags. Since you're still there, I assume you're still figuring things out. I'll be back when I'm ready. Maybe 3 weeks. Maybe 4. Within minutes, he called my mother. She called me an hour later. What's going on? She asked, not accusing, just concerned. He moved in with his ex's family to find himself, I said plainly. A pause, then, he did what? So I'm in Bali. She laughed once, sharp and incredulous. Good. If a man needs to live with his ex to decide whether he wants to marry you, he already decided. Send pictures. Your dad wants to see the temples. That night, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Linda, his ex's mother. I think there's been a misunderstanding. He just needed peace and quiet to think. Trevor being there is coincidental, she added. I replied once. With respect, my fiancé is living in your cottage with your son. There's no misunderstanding. They're not sharing a room, she wrote back immediately. I stared at the screen, then typed. The fact you felt the need to clarify that tells me everything. She sent 3 long paragraphs about maturity, commitment, and working through problems. I didn't respond. I posted a short video instead. Fire dancers on the beach, flames cutting through the night. He commented, Really? I replied with a single heart emoji. 2 days later, something shifted again. He went home. Alone. I'm back, his text read. Nothing happened. Trevor and I are just friends. Can we talk like adults? Me. How was the self-discovery? I realized I want to marry you. I didn't feel relief. I felt tired. After 2 weeks with Trevor, I asked. It wasn't like that. We just talked. About old times, about life, about us. And I realized I was scared of commitment, but I'm ready now. Because Trevor helped you realize that? Stop making it sound wrong. I'm not, I replied. I'm in Bali having my own realizations. Like what? Like I don't want to marry someone who needs their ex to convince them to choose me. 5 minutes of silence. The wedding is in 6 weeks, he finally wrote. What wedding? I hate when you say that. The one where the groom ran away to his ex's family, I replied. That wedding is over. We haven't canceled anything. Check your ring finger, I wrote. Where's your ring? In my jewelry box. I didn't want to lose it. Interesting, I said. I never take mine off either, except I did 10 days ago. Where is it? Back at the store. The call that followed was loud, accusatory, desperate. I held the phone away from my ear, heart steady. You had no right, he said. You moved in with your ex, I replied. The wedding ended when you packed. I was coming back. To do what? I asked. Marry me out of obligation? This is theft. It was a conditional gift, I said calmly. The condition was marriage. You broke it. He threatened lawyers. I told him to go ahead. That night, I watched a traditional Balinese ceremony by torchlight and thought about commitment. Some cultures treat it as sacred. Others treat it as optional. I knew which one I wanted. Day 14 in Bali was the first time I felt the weight of everything pressed down at once. Not sadness, not regret. Finality. The legal emails arrived that morning. Not from him directly, but from a lawyer his father had hired. Formal language, numbered demands, half the value of the ring, return of all wedding deposits, compensation for emotional distress, transfer of honeymoon credits. I read the list without rushing, palms flat on the table, breath even, no shaking hands, no tears blurring the screen. Just the dull recognition that this had officially crossed from heartbreak into control. I forwarded the email to my cousin, who happens to be a lawyer, without commentary. His reply came back in under 10 minutes. Lol, they have nothing. He laid it out cleanly. The ring was a conditional gift. The condition wasn't met. Contracts required both signatures. Emotional distress claims wouldn't survive 5 minutes in court given the circumstances. Honeymoon bookings were in my name, paid with my card. I closed my laptop and sat very still. This was the dark part no one talks about, the space between certainty and peace, where you're no longer confused but not yet healed, where the relationship is clearly over but the echoes haven't faded. He texted later that day. Can we handle this without lawyers? Me. You involved them. My dad did. Me. Same difference. I just want what's fair. I considered that word for a moment. Me. Fair would be not moving in with your ex before our wedding. This isn't funny. Me. Neither was finding out Trevor was there the whole time. He was only there a few days. I didn't raise my voice, didn't argue the details. Me. I don't care if it was a few hours. You chose your ex's space over our relationship. He called again. I didn't answer. Instead, I went to a pottery studio I'd signed up for earlier that week. Clay under my fingers. Pressure. Resistance. Something real to shape with my hands. The instructor showed me how to center the wheel. If it's off balance, she said, it collapses. I thought about that sentence all night. That evening, he posted on Facebook. A vague status, carefully worded. Some people show their true colors when things get hard. I took time for self-reflection and growth, and instead of support, I was abandoned. The comments split fast. Some sympathy, some confusion, some quiet skepticism. I didn't respond. I posted a photo of a sunset instead. By day 20, mutual friends had started choosing sides. Some tried to stay neutral. Others couldn't. One friend messaged me. Did you really return the ring while he was gone? Me. He wasn't gone. He moved in with his ex. Fair point. Another friend, his, sent a long message about emotional manipulation and immaturity. I replied with a photo of the crooked vase I'd made, working through my issues, one pot at a time. She blocked me. The darkest moment came late that night, alone in the villa, lights off, ocean barely visible beyond the glass. Not because I missed him, but because I finally understood him. He hadn't wanted space to grow. He wanted reassurance without consequence. And realizing that meant there was nothing left to fix, only something left to finish. Day 25 was the day the noise finally stopped. Not suddenly, not dramatically, it just thinned out. Fewer messages, longer gaps between attempts, the kind of quiet that doesn't feel empty, it feels decided. My cousin followed up with a final email summary. Their lawyer had gone silent. No more demands, no more threats. They'd realized there was no leverage left to pull. I read it once, then closed my laptop and didn't open it again. That afternoon, he tried one last time. I don't understand how you can be so cold, he texted. 3 years together and you're acting like it meant nothing. I didn't answer immediately. I finished the walk I was on first, past a small temple tucked between palm trees. Incense smoke curled into the air. Someone rang a bell softly. The sound lingered. Then I replied. It meant everything, I wrote. That's why I'm not pretending anymore. A minute passed. I was scared, he wrote. The wedding felt like forever. I panicked. Everyone gets scared, I replied. Not everyone runs to their ex. You're making it sound worse than it was. I'm describing it exactly as it was. He called. I let it ring. He sent another message. I came back. Doesn't that count for something? I stopped walking and stood still, phone warm in my hand. You didn't come back because you chose me, I typed. You came back because I stopped waiting. That was the moment I felt it. The shift. Not anger, not triumph, ownership. For weeks I'd been reacting to his choices, adjusting, countering, holding boundaries. Now I was simply stating mine. I booked my return flight that evening, not because he asked, because I was ready. On my last night in Bali, I packed slowly, folded clothes, wrapped the crooked pottery vase in a towel, stood on the balcony one final time, listening to the ocean move without asking permission from anyone. He messaged once more before I boarded the plane. Can we talk when you get back? In person. Me. We already have. I need closure. Me. Closure isn't a conversation. It's a decision. 3 days later, I landed home, jet-lagged, clear-headed. He was waiting outside my apartment building when I arrived, sitting on the steps, hair uncombed, eyes tired. He stood when he saw me, hope flickering too fast across his face. Can we talk? He asked. Sure, I said. We sat on the steps, not touching, not close. I messed up, he said. I got scared. The forever part. Trevor felt safe, familiar, no pressure. I nodded. I know. I realize that's not what I want, he continued. I want you. I looked at him, really looked at him. The man I'd loved, the man who had run. I can't marry someone who needs another woman to validate choosing me, I said. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. He promised therapy, counseling, anything. I stood. Go home, I said. This is my home. He didn't argue. He couldn't. As he walked away, I felt no urge to chase, no instinct to soften the ending. The turning point wasn't Bali. It was the moment I stopped explaining why I deserved to be chosen and started choosing myself instead. The fallout didn't arrive all at once. It came in waves. Emails, whispers, invoices, and awkward silences that said more than words ever could. 3 days after I got back, the wedding vendors began sending formal notices. Polite at first, then firmer. Cancellation fees, deadlines, consequences. Because the contracts needed both signatures, nothing moved forward. Nothing was canceled. Nothing was paid. And because I wasn't paying and I wasn't showing up, the pressure landed where it belonged. On him. His father called. Angry, controlled. The kind of anger that stays measured because it's been practiced. This didn't have to get this far, he said. It got exactly as far as it needed to, I replied. They tried one last angle, mediation, just to talk things through. I declined. Not out of spite, out of finality. A week later, he showed up again. Not dramatic, no flowers, just standing outside the building, hands in his pockets. Like a man waiting for permission he no longer had the right to ask for. I heard the vendors are coming after both of us, he said. They are, I agreed. We could fix this, he said. At least cancel properly, minimize the damage. You can, I said. I won't. That's cold. No, I replied. That's boundaries. He stared at me, searching for the woman who used to soften first. She wasn't there anymore. The wedding date came and went quietly for me. No ceremony, no dress, no vows. I was in Vegas with friends. People who didn't ask me to explain myself, who didn't need convincing that I'd done the right thing. I posted one photo, a poker hand, a simple caption. Dodged a bullet, caught a flush instead. He texted that night. This should have been our wedding day. Me, it was. What do you mean? Me. I married self-respect. Beautiful ceremony. You should have been there. He didn't reply. A month later, I heard through mutual friends that he'd started dating Trevor. I didn't react. I didn't comment. I didn't ask questions. 3 months after that, they broke up. Apparently, he'd moved back in with Trevor's family again, this time to find himself before meeting Trevor's extended family for the holidays. Trevor called me. I get it now, he said. I really do. I told you, I replied calmly. Some lessons are expensive. The vendors eventually came for the cancellation fees. Since neither of us showed, the balance split evenly, about $4,000 each. His father was furious. I paid my half without flinching. Worth every penny. Because the fallout wasn't losing a wedding. It was losing the illusion that love should require endurance instead of choice. And once that illusion burned away, there was nothing left to salvage. Only space. Only clarity. Only forward. The story didn't end with fireworks or forgiveness. It ended with quiet. A few weeks after everything settled, I found the pottery vase I'd made in Bali, still wrapped in a towel at the back of my closet. Crooked. Uneven. Slightly useless. I set it on the kitchen counter anyway and filled it with nothing. It didn't need to hold anything to be what it was. Neither did I. The villa in Bali still sends me birthday emails. Automated, cheerful. We hope to welcome you back soon. I might go, not to escape, not to prove anything, just because I can. He stopped contacting me after Vegas. No more late-night messages. No more attempts to rewrite history. I heard he tells people the breakup was mutual now, that we grew apart. I don't correct him. Some truths don't need defending. What I learned isn't complicated, but it is expensive. When someone says they need space to decide if they want you, believe them. When they run to the past to feel safe instead of staying present to build a future, believe that too. Love doesn't require auditions. Commitment doesn't need outside validation. And self-discovery that costs someone else their dignity isn't growth, it's avoidance. I don't regret loving him. I don't regret planning a wedding that never happened. I regret only the time I spent thinking patience was strength and silence was loyalty. Strength is choosing yourself when someone else refuses to choose you. The crooked vase still sits on my counter. It doesn't match anything. It doesn't try to. It just exists, solid and honest about its shape. I like that, because at least it knows what it is, and it doesn't need its ex to figure that out. If this story resonated with you, you're not alone. So many of us are taught to wait, to be patient, to soften ourselves so someone else doesn't feel uncomfortable choosing us. We call it love, we call it loyalty, but sometimes it's just fear dressed up as commitment. This wasn't a story about revenge or winning. It was about recognizing the moment when staying costs more than leaving, and having the courage to walk away without begging to be understood. If you've ever been asked to pause your life so someone else could figure theirs out, I hope this reminds you. Clarity doesn't come from distance at someone else's expense. It comes from honesty. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop explaining why you deserve to be chosen. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. If this story spoke to you, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters more than you think. And if you want more stories like this, slow burn, emotional, and rooted in real consequences, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us. Until next time, choose yourself first.